Hey, what's going on, everyone at the Players Lounge? Aaron Murray here, and we got a quarterback special show this week. First off, the greatest lefty quarterback in SEC history wore the red and black. My boy, David Greene, joining the show right now. David, man, what's up? Thanks for jumping in with us.
Hey, I appreciate it. The greatest lefty in the SEC. So you just put me above Tebow. I'm impressed. You probably didn't think that one all the way through, right?
the smoothest, because Debo
Smooth.
is like Steve is a little muscle
Kind of.
bound, a little,
He
you're
was
the
trying to
lefty
jam it in there. I was
smooth.
a little more finesse.
Yeah, you were finesse, timing, rhythm, beauty, and you still got it. Like when I see you when we go to certain events and I see you throw the football, whether it's like the SEC championship, we kind of do that thing on the field there and before the game. You still got a little bit. Like if today, right now, if I gave you a football, not a Nerf football, but like a legitimate college football, how far can you throw it? And could you do a 143 bench?
Um, I could probably throw it 55 yards still,
Ooh.
probably at least once. It would probably have to ice my arm afterwards. 145 bench. Lord, I hope I could. If I couldn't, you could take my man card away from me. So yeah, if I could do 145, I would be embarrassed. Actually, I know I could do 145 because I would never be able to face my older boys if I didn't
Mhm.
do it. So
All
yes.
right. So we're obviously going to talk a little bit about Bobo in this session. David and I both played for Coach Bobo, who is now the offensive coordinator at the University of Georgia. So 144, 145. It was our big time play action package. So we would run some sort of zone scheme or draw scheme, which would be 44, 45. And then obviously you tag play action pass with it. So it would be 144 to the right, 145 to the left. So David being a lefty, it's easy. You open to the left, you hit that fifth step, you throw a bench route, which is a 12-yard speed out.
Yep.
144 was easy for me because I'd open to the right. Fifth step, boom, I'm ripping it 12 yards on the sideline, catch it first down, move the chains. The difficult part, and the way Coach Bobo taught it, is when I would have to go 145 or Dave would have to go 140, 44, where I would have to turn left and then flip my hips to
On
throw
your
the ball to
third.
the sideline on time. Same thing with you. How long did it take you to get to feel comfortable throwing a 144 bench to the right side?
Yeah, I didn't even know that it was doable when they first explained it, and they said, "Yeah, we called it actually past 44 bench, but really same premise." The only thing that convinced me that it was doable is when I saw they put on the tape of Chris Winkie, because obviously when Coach Rick first got there, his last stop was Florida State, and he would show Winkie do the three in the wheel, and I saw that it could be done. But it wasn't pretty the first few times, and a lot of times when he would call it, I'm thinking, can you just call it past 45? Yeah, yeah. Give me an easy one here versus throwing P44 bench to the field when it wasn't like I had the rocket arm that you guys had anyway. I'm trying to, I got to throw it early if I'm gonna throw that far.
Shoot, we know you had you had plenty of arm strength. When we go nowadays, I think you throw a ball harder than I can. So I don't want to hear this pea shooter over here. You could rip it with the best of them back in the day. I honestly I don't know this, and I would love to be educated myself on this. Probably should have looked it up. It just came to me. Who was calling plays originally when you were the starting quarterback at Georgia? Was Rick heavily involved? Was he calling some plays, or was it kind of Bobo at that point?
So this is gonna make me feel old, but it was Coach Rick actually the
Uh,
entire time. All 4 years
oh,
at Georgia, it was Coach Rick. Now, I could certainly tell year, like 2, 3, and 4 that I was there, Coach Rick was certainly gaining a lot of confidence in Coach Bobo. There was no question. I could tell things were moving in a direction that Coach Bobo was eventually going to be calling plays. But Coach Bobo at the time was the quarterback coach, and Coach Rick was heavily involved. He ran all the quarterback meetings. I mean, there was no question. Yeah, he was the one calling plays.
it's just weird to me to think of like Bobo not being in charge of the room because I mean Coach Rick my I would say junior senior year started to come back and be a little bit more involved. I feel like he got to the Bobby Bowden stage of his career where he kind of stood back, was in his office, let the coordinators do their thing. And then I think he started to get the itch back like I want to get more involved. So he would come into our meetings, but he'd be so dead ass tired because of all of his other responsibilities. Half the time I
Right.
feel like we'd look back and Coach Rick
They'd be
You
back
taking
there
like a little
snoozing.
power nap. Oh yeah, because it's like dark in the room. We're just watching film. We're not talking a lot. We're all just like kind of like, taking our notes, and Bobo was kind of going through it. And all of a sudden, Bobo would rip us a new one, and Coach Rick would wake back up like, "Ah, that's right, Coach Bobo. You tell him." And I'm like, "You were sleeping. You have no idea what we were just talking about back there." So to know that it was a little bit different back then, I guess, what was Coach Rick like as more of a position coach? Because I only know him as a head coach. Like I said, like, love him,
Sure.
but he let Bobo and Grantham or Willie do their thing on the defensive side. What was he like as a play caller and being more involved in that part of it?
It's funny, Aaron, because he was so hands on at the beginning of his career in Athens. I think, obviously his side of the ball was offense, and this was his first head coaching job. And man, he sunk his teeth into everything. I'll tell you, the first game I ever played, and you talk about tough in the way he graded. I mean, he was so difficult. First game I ever started was Arkansas State. I complete my first 15 passes. Okay, I feel like I had a phenomenal game. Well, we go in on Sunday to do the film study, and the first thing I do, I look at my gassers. I don't know if Coach Bobo made y'all run gassers a lot too, but I looked at my sheet, and I had to run 18 gassers after my first game, and all of it had to do, Murray, with carrying out 5 hard steps on my play action
Mm.
pass, or after I handed the ball off. So we would run 44 to Musa, and if I took 3 hard steps after handing it off, I would get a penalty or I would get a gasser. And so everybody would tell me, they said, "Oh, Greene, you had the greatest play action pass or whatever." I'm like, dude, I didn't have a choice. It was either do it or run, And about midway through my redshirt freshman year, I had the worst shin splints that you could imagine. And Bobo actually did the meanest thing ever. Since I had shin splints, he would make me roll across the field. And
Oh,
I would rather do anything than roll across the field. And there was this one time we're at the stadium, I'll never forget. I'm rolling across the field. I'm beyond dizzy when I get to the other side. I stand up and I fall over into all kinds of stuff, right? And I think at that point, Bubba's like, yeah, maybe we don't need to do this. We need to figure out something a little bit different. But I'm telling you, man, Coach Rick was extremely tough when it came to coaching quarterbacks or running the offense. And I'll tell you an interesting story. I had lunch with him probably about 4 or 5 months ago, and we started talking about that transition when he quit calling plays. And he said the reason he did it, he said he realized that, because he was still calling plays with shock as well. He started realizing the game offensively was evolving. And he said in the off season, he was still doing all his head coaching role and all his head coaching duties. And he wasn't really able to study the new trends on offense and how things were going. And I think he started realizing, man, we're kind of getting left behind, maybe getting a little stale. And that was when he turned over the reins to Coach Bobo. But I never heard him say that before. I thought it was a pretty interesting comment. But he had just realized that, hey, if I want to be a head coach, I'm limited on how I can grow as a play caller with these head coaching duties.
it sounds a little bit like Jimbo and some of the issues they're facing at A&M. I mean, it's a lot of responsibility, especially the offseason with NIL and the portal. It's hard. Like the game is a copycat league. I don't care where you're at, NFL, college. You have to keep up with the trends in order to take your game to the next level. I want to go back to. I wish Bobo would have learned the punishment of rolling with you, because he did that with me. So my freshman year, I had a bad game and I had a roll. And so I've never rolled in my life. So you're on the ground, and it is what it is. You are literally rolling back and forth on the field. And I get to the point where I honestly, I couldn't run anymore. I couldn't roll anymore. Probably about 50 yards to go, I remember Ben Jones had to roll me. So Ben came over, being the great center that he is. He's pushing me, and I'm just literally like on the ground, just like helpless as he's rolling me and rolling me and rolling me. Well, anyways, I got a one of those little pebbles from the turf stuck in my eye. Got a scratch cornea. Never piss off Mama Bear. Mama Murray finds out about this. She
Oh
calls
no.
Coach Bobo. So this is a soft moment in my life, but you know what? Don't piss off Mama Murray. She calls Bobo and just like lays it into him, like, Aaron grinds his ass off all week. Actually, she didn't say ass because she doesn't cuss. She grinds his butt off all week to get ready for a game, and you're going to torture him and scratch his cornea, and he's not going to be ready to play or whatever it is. And after that, he never rolled me again. So I had to do sprints afterwards. So like I'm with you though. I would do anything, and I love roller coasters, but I was in the training room for probably like 2 or 3 hours. So I couldn't get up and walk afterwards. So hopefully for our boy Carson, who we're talking tomorrow night, Bobo is done with the days of rolling quarterbacks up and down the field. I,
Yeah.
what was Bobo like as a quarterback coach, though? I mean, was he as entertaining and lively then, or was he a little bit more reserved because of Coach Rick and his role?
No, he was every bit as lively and entertaining. Probably one of the fiercest competitors I've ever been around. Um, Tough, hard nosed coach. I'll be curious to see Murray after this year goes by what some of the current quarterbacks say about him. Some guys get a little bit softer, you know what I mean, as they get older.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he was tough. I mean, he was tough. He has or at least this is the relationship I had with him. He has the ability to work you extremely hard, be extremely, um, tough, demanding, competitive. But at the same time, when the game's over, he also had a lot of respect, I guess, for what you're doing. You know what I mean? And there was some
Mm-hmm.
appreciation there too. And so there was always a healthy respect and a healthy, kick in the butt. He wasn't afraid to do that at any moment. And just really one of the great competitors I think you'll ever see. When you look at great athletes and great, um, you know, coaches and play, there are folks that just want to win in anything. And we both know, from being around him, it doesn't matter if you're playing horseshoes, cards, around a golf. I mean, he wants to beat your brains in, and he'll tell you about it and the whole deal. So when you look at the fire that Kirby has, I'm pretty excited because Bobo has that same fire that Kirby has. So I'm curious to see if that's even going to come out a little bit more since the head coach kind of shares that same passion.
I would think so too. Like every Friday when we do our quarterback competition, accuracy drills and warm ups. I mean, Bobo was always fighting us to try to get that to beat us, and he a lot of times he would. He was a damn accurate quarterback. I want to go. I want to transition a little bit to life as a quarterback at the University of Georgia. What is the best part of being that guy at Georgia?
Well, I mean, I think the great things, whenever you play for a school that has a fan base that's as crazy and rabid about the football team, um, there's obviously a lot of responsibility. There's a ton of rewards to go with it. I mean, Aaron, I think I was probably a little bit like you. We both started as freshmen or redshirt freshmen. And, after you have a couple of good wins under your belt, all of a sudden you start going places for dinner and you no longer can just walk right in and not get recognized. I think the thing that I enjoy the most is just the people that I've met through the years and the relationships that I've been able to forge, having played ball at Georgia. And, I would have never been able to meet some of the people, um, have some of the friendships that I have if it wasn't for our time in Athens and growing up in the state. Look, I mean, I grew up and live now only about 45 minutes down the road. And so, it was a dream to be able to play in a stadium like that in front of a crowd that is hungry to win games and championships as it is in the state of Georgia. So, I mean, and fortunately, I was there at a really good time where we had good teams and good players. And it was a new era of Georgia football. We were coming off kind of a time where things were, I'm not going to say stale, but we were, there'd be 7-4, 7-5, and we weren't winning championships. And when Coach Rick got there, it was fun to be a part of a new era of football where
Mm-hmm.
everybody was just excited about the direction the program was going in.
So obviously, it wasn't as easy then as it is now for a kid just to pick up and transfer. So the whole, Carson Beck staying as long as he stayed is a little bit rare. But you brought up DJ there for a second, which made me think of this. DJ is loved in the Georgia community, one because he had success. I mean, he was a baller, won an
Sure.
SEC championship game, but he stuck it out. He stayed there as a backup to you and waited his turn. Carson, same thing with Stetson. He could have picked up his ball left, use his one-time free transfer, gone somewhere else, and I think he is the talent to go out there and play at, I would say, 90-95% of the schools out there. How hard is it because obviously you have to focus on you, but you know what DJ's going through and what he went through. How hard is it for a guy like DJ when you were playing, or a guy like Carson, who has had to sit the bench a little bit? But also the positive is now it's their turn to shine, and now we'll see if he has to get it. Just like DJ had to earn it. But just talk about maybe putting yourself in their shoes a little bit.
Yeah, and it was look, first I'll say it's about my time with Shock. I mean, it was a very tough situation to be in. I wasn't recruited by Coach Rick. Um, and so and Shock was highly recruited. And the one thing I'll tell you, when we first got there, I mean, we hit it off instantly. Shock is I think anybody that knows DJ understand he's a phenomenal guy to be around to begin with. The way he worked, prepared himself, the kind of teammate he was. I mean, let's face it, it would have been very easy and convenient for us not to like each other. He's like one of my favorite guys of all time. And I have then and always have, Will. I mean, I've got the utmost respect for him, the way he handled himself to be able to realize how talented he was and that he could be starting just about anywhere in the country, right? And we were at a time where we were winning a lot and we had a good identity as a team, and he's certainly fit in that puzzle as well. Because I mean, I think we both understood which the other one kind of brought, from a value standpoint to the team. And so, I was I was always a huge fan of his. Of course, when he had his moment, his senior year, I was so glad he was able to take advantage of it the way he did, have the success that they had in '05. Really bummed that he ended up going through that adversity with his knee because he was having such a hot year. I would have loved for him to have been able to play in that Florida game because they had so much momentum in the way that he was playing. But very difficult, yeah, because like I said, he could have transferred a number of times, and there were plenty of moments throughout his career that you could tell that he was going through some challenging times. It was maybe tough to get motivated to go to practice or whatnot, and he would just find a way to keep plowing through and just be a good teammate. And always wanted to be a good teammate of his. I mean, we both wanted to play. That's just kind of the reality of the deal. And but he's one of the finest people you'll ever meet.
No, DJ's the man. Speaking of that competition, though, spring ball is right around the corner. Time to compete, time to earn a job, and we're gonna have three quarterbacks kind of getting after it to be the next quarterback, to take over the Ferrari that has been built, and to try to go for a back-to-back national championship. And obviously, big shoes to be filled with our boy Stetson moving on. How do you approach spring? How should these kids approach spring when it comes to being in a competition of balancing the fact of, this is your teammate, this is a guy that you're in the locker room with, in meetings with, balancing the fact that you need to focus your energy on what you can accomplish, while also kind of, having that little look behind your back every time the other guy makes a pretty good play in practice as well.
Yeah, I think the approach the QBs need to have is look, yeah, it's kind of keep your mouth shut a little bit from a leadership standpoint because you're fighting for that job, and it's really going to be about production and consistency, and just showing that you want it, not just want it on scrimmage day. You want it every day, and you're willing when it's your time to step in and get reps. You take full advantage of it. You be a great teammate, cheer your teammates on. I think you're at a point where you can't push the leadership too much yet from a vocal standpoint, because that necessarily hadn't been solidified. But I think when you step in the huddle, you got to have great command. You got to be able to run the offense. I do think now, since Stetson has been here, I do think there's an edge for the guys that are a little bit more mobile. Thank God I'm not coming through and having to play now. But I think because I heard someone pose a question to Coach Smart, and they said, do you evaluate the quarterback position any differently than you did before? And he says, well, I think I take a little more stock in the mobility portion of it. So I do think being able to move around, there's some huge value in that are obvious. But I think having Stetson and running the offense the way he did with Stetson and being able to use his legs as much as he did his arm, I think the guys that have a little bit more mobility have a little bit of a leg up here.
Yeah. And and obviously Carson is kind of viewed, in my opinion, as the guy that doesn't have mobility. But I've seen Carson move. I don't think he has that instinct to like just take off and run. Like he is a passer first, but like seeing
Sure.
him in outside the pocket, I think he's more than athletic to allow Bobo to move him around, change the launch angle. He's not the guy that's going to get 20 yards if nothing's open down the field. Obviously, that's more of Brock's expertise there. So it's going to be a really interesting battle. I think the hard part for a guy like Brock and Spring is the fact that quarterbacks can't get hit. That whistle's a little early blown. Would he have broken a tackle? Would he have made a guy miss in the pocket? Would he have made a guy miss down the field? That's always kind of hard to judge with athletic quarterbacks. You kind of want to see them more in a game live situation. So, going to be a lot for Bobo and Kirby to kind of manage here and rep wise during spring. Last one before I let you leave, man, you got close. Shot got close. Stafford got close. I got close. Fromm got close. And that obviously we know the Georgia fan base has been wanting to get to this level of success and the belief that they should be there. And finally they have. And now we've won back-to-back national championships. And my question to you is, what happens when Georgia does lose? And I don't know if they will this year. I mean, the schedule lays out beautifully. They're more talented than every team they face on the schedule. But if they
Right.
do stumble, you've been around this fan base enough and you've seen the past 2 years. How do they react with an upset loss?
Well, I think it was look, whenever there was a loss even before the national championships, it wasn't good. Uh, Clearly, the expectations are as high as ever. We're pretty spoiled, and Kirby even mentioned it. I think after the this last championship, he's like, "Hey guys, look, you can't take this for granted, right? I mean, y'all got to enjoy the moment. You never know. There's a different. It's like putting a different puzzle together every single year. Every team has a different feel, a different identity. We got a brand new, regardless of who it is, we got somebody new pulling the trigger at the quarterback position. It's going to have a different feel offensively, regardless of how many guys are returning. So, look, the fan base is they're crazy about Georgia football. What makes it so fun, right? When the times are great, it's the greatest thing in the world because you get to be a part of it. When you share in a loss, obviously it gets overanalyzed. People are upset and the whole deal. But look, what Kirby's been able to do, the foundation he's been able to build. I mean, look at the difference now, Aaron, in the ones and the twos and even the threes. I mean, think about the difference in the depth chart when we were playing. You were going, hey man, this dude can get hurt. There was pretty big drop off potentially between a one and two, especially a three, and to where it is now. Guys feel like, hey, I can't miss a rep in practice because I may not be the guy on Saturday.
Yeah.
And so he's been able to create a culture of hard work where he's got really talented kids that are willing to work hard and kind of have that blue collar mentality, and good things are happening.
Oh, I hope it doesn't happen this year, but when it does, I'm very, very interested to see how the fans react because you can't keep winning. You just can't. It's even the great Nick Saban had to lose a couple games here or there, but they should be. I think they'll be fine this year. Well, David, man, appreciate you jumping on with us today here at the Players Lounge, and look forward to a little golf this spring and summer at the lake. Take you to Cuscawilla,
Let's
and
do it.
unfortunately, I was very sad the first day I ever saw David swing a golf club because I was expecting like the nice, beautiful lefty Phil Mickelson s swing, but he's a righty on the golf course, which was a little bit
It's probably a
upset by that.
right-handed slice into the woods is probably what it was.
I'm right there with you. Actually, I've been overhooking it lately, so I would rather get a little bit more of a baby fade involved in the game. But anyways, appreciate you, man, and I would love to have you on in the future.
Murray, appreciate you, buddy. You be good, man.